Greetings and salutations all. I.S. Anderson here once again with my latest discussion on the Dance with Dragons, Book 5 in the Song of Ice and Fire series. And today we're going to focus on the Jon Snow chapters. So, Jon Snow, the new Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, bringing in a lot of changes to the Night's Watch. Yes, it's now no longer the Night's Watch. Now it's the Night's Watch plus Stannis' army and the Queen's men and a lot of Wildlings being brought in. And some may think this is a recipe for disaster, and to an extent it is, but it's also doing a lot of good if you think about it. There's now a bigger army to defend the wall against the others. There's now more people to help rebuild all the other castles and man them, which is also a good thing. Downside is, how is Jon going to feed all these people? There's also a slight issue with not everybody is going to get along. Night's Watch and the Wildlings have been enemies since day one. And there's always been a policy of, we don't get involved with the realms, we don't interfere with those things. Now we've got a king taking up residence there, letting his queen stay there, and his red priestess, and we've also got wildlings being brought over into the wall and doing work, and, they don't like to be kneelers, and they don't like to follow the rules of the land. And now Jon has made his first hard decision, Janos Slynt. Yes. Janos, he's defiant, he basically spits in Jon's face, he gives him the finger, he defiles all his orders, laughs at him, until finally Jon says, okay, take him out and hang him. And, of course, being Ned Stark's son, he says, no, wait a minute, that's not right, Put him down on the block, I'll chop his head off. And, it was just so great to see Janos Slynt. He's just like defying up until the last minute to it where he realizes, oh shit, he's serious. And he's just like, I'm sorry, sir. I'll obey your commands. Please don't do this. And crying like a little bitch. And Jon chops his head off. And then what was really great, the cherry on top, was just Stannis just looking and going, yeah, that was good. That was a good scene. I'm looking forward to seeing that in the show. As far as the issue with the food and bringing all these new people in that don't seem to be bringing food with them, but they do seem to be bringing wealth, Jon gets into debt with the Iron Bank, which is always a bad idea, yet at the same time, he can't just let his people starve, and I guess he figures the best way to prevent that from happening is get enough gold so that he can just buy food from other people. But, and again, we don't really know what winters in Westeros are like. I mean, we've been told, we've heard rumors what they're like, and we know about the long nights where apparently the sun didn't come up for years, and that's when the White Walkers first attacked. But the thing is, we really don't know. We haven't seen their winter. Which brings me to the point of, if people don't have enough food to sell, they're not going to sell. And Jon's not going to have any food to buy, and all that gold's not going to matter if there's not enough food to buy. So as far as Jon's leadership style goes, I think he's got a pretty good leadership style. I mean, he doesn't get angry when people insult him. He stresses religious tolerance. I mean, he tells Melisandre, look, these people, they worship the old gods. You can't just tell people that, they have to follow your ways or you burn them and all that stuff. And she sort of reluctantly agrees, though we don't know to what extent. And Jon, he has to deal with problems that most Night's Watchmen don't have to deal with. I mean, this woman comes to him, trying to escape her marriage, so Jon has to arrange a marriage for her between her and one of the wildling royalty. Now, while Jon may be implementing a lot of changes that make a lot of people in Night's Watch uncomfortable, they need to happen. I mean, obviously, what's been going on with the Night's Watch, it hasn't been working. Their numbers have been dwindling and dwindling through the years. They only can man 3 of the castles. And, the wildlings, if they're able to attack the wall, and they would have won had Stannis not showed up with his army, what exactly is the Night's Watch going to do when a supernatural force tries to take over? Which brings me to the last Jon chapter in the book, and Jon's attack. So, I mean, reading the chapter, I read it a few times, and it really seems to me like there's no way Jon could have survived that attack. I mean, he was pretty much stabbed 3 times, he falls over, and then roll credits, and yeah, I really don't see how he's going to come back from that. On the other hand, there's still the whole question of who is his mother, and without Jon alive, I don't see how that question could possibly be answered. Plus, there is the small fact of, Jon dead in the middle of the snow. It's not like that's just going to go unnoticed and nothing else is going to happen here. I mean, there's a few factions. First of all, you've got the guys, the members of the Night's Watch that actually did it. Probably the old guys who wanted to go back to the old ways, and therefore, well, sorry, Jon, we gotta kill you. there's going to be other people in the Night's Watch that are still loyal to Jon, probably the younger guys who are going to say, ugh, for Jon, and go after him. And you've also got the Wildlings mixed up in this whole debauchery. Now they're going to have multiple factions too. Some of them are going to be loyal to Jon because they wanted this change and they want to live on the other side of the wall and have this, because I think they can see that they have a better life there. But they're not going to have that if the Night's Watch is going to try and kill them, so they're going to try and fight back. And there's also going to be wildlings who just hate the Night's Watch and probably don't want to be there, and they're just going to kill whoever they can in the Night's Watch, or whoever they can to probably get back on the other side of the wall. Plus, you've got to remember this whole thing started when the giant, 1-1, he goes crazy and he kills one of the Queen's Guards, and we don't know why that happened. We don't know what got him agitated. We don't know if this Queen's Guard attacked him, or if 1-1 just went crazy and did that, or something probably set him off. And I don't know if it was that night or something else, but I have a feeling the Queen's Knight probably attacked him on the orders of the Queen. I could be wrong, but I do have a feeling that the Queen did have something to do with that, because she's just all snooty and she's basically the Umbridge. She's very Umbridge-ish. So she hates half-breeds, and she probably hates giants and the wildlings, and I'm pretty sure she thinks that her Queen's Guard can take care of all of them. But meanwhile, she's nowhere to be seen in this incident, and neither is Melisandre. And Melisandre, before this incident happened, she had asked Jon, well, where's your wolf? Where is he? And he has, Ghost is chained up so that he doesn't attack, that other wildling's boar. And we also know that Melisandre and Ghost get along somehow. I mean, Melisandre, she pets Ghost, and Ghost doesn't attack her or anything, and Jon was really surprised when he saw that. And she just tells him, well, all animals respond to kindness. I'm just kind to him. But still, at the end of this, when this thing goes down, we don't really know where she is, and we don't really know her role in it. She might be completely innocent in it. She might have, been sort of a mastermind behind it. Then again, we don't really know what's going on with her in this situation. And despite the warning signs, despite the obvious tension that was going on with all these changes being made, this attack was rather abrupt. I mean, even with the 1-1 incident triggering this, the attack on Jon was still pretty abrupt, and there didn't really seem to be any real build-up towards it. I mean, there was hints of build-up to it. I mean, I'm not really surprised, per se, that it happened, even though I was kind of spoiled and kind of knew that it was going to happen anyway. Before I started making this movie, I watched another video on YouTube that was an analysis of the Catching Fire movie and the whole Hunger Games world and Panem in general. And it's a pretty good video. I'll leave a link below. I'll let you check that out if you want to see what I'm talking about. And as you probably expect, this video, it took the stance of government corruption, and namely corporate corruption, and how our world very well could end up like the world of the Hunger Games in Panem. That's the sexy stance to take, and the very popular stance to take. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that our government is above corruption. I'm not saying corporations are above corruption. I mean, we know what happened with Enron. We've seen what happened with, I used to work for corporations, so I definitely know what they're capable of. I definitely know that they do put their own needs before everything else. They're not really intentionally out to screw the public, but they do look out for themselves primarily. When all that is said and done, however, you have to realize that our society isn't just the government and the corporations. We are also a big factor in that. I mean, we're probably the biggest factor at all. And do we ever sort of take that scrutiny and then point it back at us and say, well, are we doing everything that's right? I mean, are we truly the victims here of somebody else's wrongdoings, or do we do things to ourselves? I mean, we do elect these people, and what do we choose our elected officials on, truly? I mean, do we really look at their service record? Do we really look at, their principles? Do we really look at what they've done in the past? Do we do our own research into the viability of candidates that are up for election, or do we just believe what other people tell us? What George R. R. Martin has done in this 5th book is he's asked the question, what happens when the good people do take over the government? What happens when the people who probably should be the rulers are made the rulers? Is everything good and hunky-dory after they take over? If you've read this story and know everything that's going on in the Song of Ice and Fire series, you'd be pretty hard pressed to paint Jon Snow as a bad leader. Like I said before, I mean, he's tolerant of other people's religions. He's honestly trying to do what he thinks is best for his people, and he's only punishing. He does punish Janos Slynt, for disobeying him because Janos Slynt could cause dissent, and we know everything, so we can understand why he did what he did. But try to imagine if somebody had just walked in just as Janos Slynt had been, executed, and they saw Jon doing that themselves. Would they think, oh, Jon's doing what he has to protect the people and all that stuff? Or would they be thinking, oh my God, he's evil and he's bad, he needs to be destroyed and all that? When the Wildlings cross over and into the southern region, we see the internal racism and the prejudice that the old men of the Night's Watch have against them, which extends back several hundreds of years. Like I said before, they've been warring with them, and now all of a sudden they're just supposed to accept them across the borders, which is hard to do. And you see the Night's Watchmen say things like they don't work properly, they don't listen, and all that stuff, which we can sort of see, a little bit, in our own lives. I'm not going to get too much into it, but you can see where I'm drawing the parallels. But the thing is, the prejudices are on both sides, and you see this when Val, the wildling girl that's been, prisoner of Jon for quite a while now. I mean, she sees the queen's daughter, the princess, I forget her name, but the one with grayscale on half her face. I mean, she takes one look at this girl and she's just, oh, you should kill her because she has this disease, and are all witches say that it's a bad thing, and just it's a child with a disease. Why are you so quick to just take one look at her and kill her just because of that? So I mean, these prejudices exist on both sides of the fence or the wall, I should say, and Jon didn't put those prejudices in anybody else's head now, did he? And I hate to bring it back around to Daenerys again, but look what's happening over in Meereen. I mean, Daenerys, she's trying to do the right thing. She's trying to bring peace to the people. She's freed the slavery. She's trying to be a just ruler, but still, there's people who just don't like this and want to go back to the old ways and got to start causing some shit. And one of the things that's brought up in the Catching Fire video is how, the government will use, or corporations will use games to distract us, which happens in the Hunger Games, which did happen back in the Roman Empire with, the gladiatorial games. And in Meereen, they're trying to bring back these gladiatorial games that they had in Meereen. Dany opposes these games at first, and with good reason, but finally she gives in to try and keep the peace. And you could make the argument that it's, just the Harpies that are trying to bring this back, or the rich people trying to bring this back. But then again, you've got the fact that the people are more than willing to go to these games, and they cheer the things on. And they get upset when Dany doesn't let Tyrion and his other dwarf friend go out and get killed by the lions. In our society, it has its games, it has its sports, and I'm not saying they're anywhere near as barbaric as gladiatorial games. I mean, they don't intentionally go out and kill each other. Although we do kind of feel a slight satisfaction when there's some injury, or there's some possible death, or there's some possible danger to it. And, I'm not condemning, people who watch sports or anything like that, but if the government did decide to just ban all sports, or if the sports venues just decided to close their doors and pack up, I mean, would we as a society be cool with that? I don't think so. So anyway, the only point I'm trying to bring up here that I think the story is trying to put forward is that while it's easy to just sit back and blame outside force, just say the government's full of assholes, and these corporations are full of assholes, we gotta take a look at ourselves and say, you know what, we're full of assholes too. Okay, that's all I have for today. Please leave your comments below, and my pertinent contact information is down in the abyss as always. Please comment, rate, subscribe, you know the drill. And until next time, this is I.S. Anderson telling everybody, make your lives great and have a good day. Thank you very much.